Let's now optimize our scene to render our shot with path tracing. Now you already know how to switch between different lighting setups before going into the render settings. What you can do is you can disable these environment lights from here and then enable the night scene for path tracing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to render my day scene with path tracing. Okay, so for that I'm going to simply go into the exponential height fog and increase the fog density, because I remember that we'd increase the fog density while optimizing our scene for path tracing in the night shot. If I open up this folder, you can see that the exponential height fog has the fog density of 0.03. And secondly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the post-process volume and I'm going to search for path tracing settings. And I'm going to check all these boxes from here. I'm going to deselect the denoiser and I'm going to check this box, reference depth of field. I'm going to bring down the maximum bounces to 6 and I'm going to bring down the maximum path exposure to 1. As I said earlier, that what you can do is you can go ahead and enable this lighting setup from here, enable all these lighting elements. But what I'm doing in here is to optimize this lighting setup for path tracing, okay? The day scene for path tracing. So now that we have made these changes, let's now go ahead and click on this render button. I'm gonna click here to open up the render settings, and let's now upload the same preset that we worked on and saved in the last lesson. Now, because we've already adjusted all these settings for Lumen, there is not actually much we need to do. All we have to do in here is to disable deferred rendering and bring in path tracing in here. And in here now we have some settings. We don't really need to do anything in here except for this option. We need to check this box, reference motion blur, to get some really high quality motion blur in our animation. And the other thing that we need to do in here is to adjust the anti-aliasing settings. Now, as far as spatial sample count and temporal sample count is concerned, the basic concept is going to remain the same. Okay, the spatial sample count is going to help us to reduce the noise, while the temporal sample count is going to give us some very high quality motion blur. But the problem in here is that when we multiply 32 with 4, we get something like, I guess, 128. And 128 number of sample is not just enough to clean up all the noise in here, okay? Because you can see that we have typed in 2048 in here. So we need 2048 total number of samples to clean up all the noise from this shot. Let me explain this again. In here you can see that we have set the spatial sample count to 4 and temporal sample count to 32. Now these values are fine for Lumen, but as far as path tracing is concerned, we cannot go ahead with these values. When we'll multiply the temporal sample count with spatial sample count, we'll only get 128 number of total samples, which is not enough. If I type 128 in here, it's not gonna clean up all the noise from my shot. So that is why we need to increase this value enough to clean up all the noise from our shot. So as far as spatial sample count is concerned, I mostly like to keep this somewhere around 32 or 64. So for this one, I'm just going to type 64 in here. And for the temporal sample count, I think 32 is a good number. When we'll multiply 32 with 64, we'll get 2048 number of total samples, which is enough for this shot, okay? But in some certain situations where we need more number of temporal samples, as we discussed in one of the previous videos with an example, then you can increase this number up to 64. Then it will give you 4096 total number of samples. But for this shot, 64 spatial samples and 32 temporal samples are more than enough. And that is pretty much it. Because we have adjusted all these settings for Lumen, we don't really need to do that much. Now I can click on accept and click on render. You can also go ahead and save a different preset for this one as well, like we did for Lumen. And as you can see that now we are rendering in path tracing. Okay. So this is how you can optimize your shots or your scene for path tracing. And that's pretty much it for this lesson and the series. This was the last video of this course. If you have any sort of problems at all, please do reach out to me and I'll try my very best to help you out. In the coming future, I'll also be working on a separate course in which I'll show you how you can create all these shots for the interiors. Because up till now, we've been working on all the shots in the outdoors. In that course, I'll show you how you can make cinematic shots in interiors.